Join us by the fireside for our evening tales of true life's strange experiences with things that lie beyond the veil of the known and into the misty depths of the mysterious and unknown.
The Lady in Black. It was around the year 2010, and I'm starting to forget the details, but I do still remember some things of what this ghost looked like. And I think I was about 10 years old when this happened to me. It was when I was returning home from school, and I remember I was feeling really exhausted from all the work that, schoolwork that I've been doing. And I was just so happy to go back home. On the same day, my grandmother came to visit my family, and she was going to stay all week with us. So I was happy about that. I headed out to my room, and everything happened so fast that I didn't even have time to think about it. I dropped my pack at the entrance to my room, and I turned a corner heading my way to the closet, which is just 2 steps away from the main entrance of my room. And all of a sudden, I saw this tall lady, and this is in broad daylight. And she was in front of me in the corner of my closet, standing there. And she just let out the most terrible scream I ever heard in my life. It was the worst, most terrifying thing that I've ever experienced. And it was as if my soul literally just jumped out of me. I just remember seeing her from the backside, and I gained a sort of split second or second, third perspective view, and I was seeing her looking at my right side of my body after she finished screaming at me. I don't know how to explain this. I don't know what happened after that, but I remember that I was able to see her in front of me again, and this time she was crouching at my level of sight, giving me this most evil stare with this weird screeching kind of noise sound that I thought nothing else but to get the hell out of there. I ran to my mother's, terrified. I thought I was just going to die. I thought I was going to drop dead from terror. And I told my mother what it was I saw. And I told her about this ghost lady that looked really old with long white hair. And she had this grayish white, sort of pale skin. And she was wearing from top to bottom all black. And it was like a long, huge black wedding dress or something that looked like a wedding dress. And she had this weird tall hat on, and it had a black veil over it. My grandmother went to check it out, but to my surprise, she found nothing. I spent all day telling my family what I saw and not wanting to spend a single minute in my room, afraid that I might see this thing again. I did not even want to spend the night in my room, and I begged my mom to sleep with me for the night. And when all that happened, I was afraid to enter my room for a week because I thought the ghost was going to be there. So I spent years thinking that maybe I imagined it because I was a kid and I love ghost stories. But I had a powerful imagination that day, but I think what I saw was real because my mother told me years later that she saw the same lady next to my dad when he was sleeping in the couch. She told me that she saw this ghost of this lady kiss my dad on the cheek, and she lifted the blanket up to his chest. Mom told me how it looked like very much the one that I saw, same ghost. So we think that she was the last person to live in that house. Maybe she died there or something. Because my parents' room always gave me this weird, creepy feeling. And the energy there always felt kind of heavy and dark. Um, Maybe this woman had a husband that passed away there or something because she seemed to want to stay there a lot and not move on to the afterlife. And she didn't like me or my mom or my siblings, but she really just seemed to like my dad. Anyway, I've had quite a few other paranormal experiences in that place, but I just wanted to share this one right now. And maybe later I'll share some more of the other ones. But this was something that was just so terrifying, it stayed with me, and I will never forget it. Something followed me home. My father and I, we had this interest and kind of like a hobby of looking for abandoned buildings and towns, old towns and graveyards and, just things like that. And one day I was with him and we drove to visit his cousin in Utah. We passed an old looking shack and we decided to just sort of pull off the freeway and to take a closer look at it. This kind of shack place was looked like some ancient sort of cement and stone building. The door was still on the hinge. There was no lock, no knob, but there was a handle, so we were able to get in. It was probably around, I don't know, 6 by 6 or something, and it had a flat roof. So we opened it, and there was a bit of a drop inside that went down maybe about 2 feet. We thought, wow, this is weird. Inside there was a rotting mattress, and it was on the bottom, and it just had mostly just springs left. The whole place had a really sort of eerie, sort of creepy feeling. Um, After a few moments of just kind of looking at this, old box kind of thing, we noticed a larger home that was probably around 50 feet away in the back, and it was between some trees. This older home was kind of built in this with the same materials, with stones and cement. It was larger though. It was maybe about 15 by 10 in size. And there were remnants of a mattress there too. Um, and this mattress had an iron headboard that went with it. My dad was really kind of excited with our discovery. I mean, this was just kind of strange. Um, And then I noticed a man made river, and it was kind of formed from rocks near by the outside of the stone cabin. And so I decided to kind of walk up there a little bit. Um, and there were actually more cabins further upstream. My dad kind of stayed behind as I went ahead, and explored a little bit. And he just wanted to look at the architecture of this place, this old place. And so I went upstream a little bit further, and I went through maybe about 50 yards of trees, and there were rocks and leaves, and then there was a riverbed, and it sort of stopped there. Um, and it was sort of an area that had a completely straight row of rocks, along the riverbed. There was a clearing there, and it was really quiet, which was kind of creepy. There's just no sounds of anything. It was a little too still to be natural. I noticed an odd thing. There was a perfectly square clearing of mowed grass. And then something kind of hit me. It was like a feeling of anxiety. I felt like I was being watched. But this wasn't natural. It wasn't like an animal or something. It was something else. Something that really kind of gave me this heavy feeling of anxiety and fear. It felt as if something was looking right through me. That's the only way I can explain it. It was examining me and it could see right through my body, right through everything. It was such an odd feeling. It was not like being looked at by a person or something. This was something that just seemed to cut right into me. And it gave me this feeling of nausea. And it was a fear of something that was so alien and unknown that it created a feeling of nausea inside me. And anyway, I began to look around that mowed patch area, and I was trying to see what was, why was I feeling this way? And I just stood really still, and I was kind of turning my head just kind of once, and my peripheral couldn't see anything. I couldn't see anything in my peripheral vision. Then suddenly something just appeared. It was this nasty looking pale thing. It was so ugly. It was kind of human, and it was crouched down behind some tall grass where the mowing stopped on the far left corner of the patch. It had kind of a human type of head, but it was kind of disproportionate. It was a little too large, and this thing had no mouth, but it had these cheekbones and a kind of an outline for a jaw. There were temples and there were these black pits for eyes, and that was what was the worst. It was the eyes, and they hurt. They hurt me when I looked into them. That's the only way I can explain it, is they caused me pain. When I looked at the eyes, I thought that that was it. I was finished. I was dead. And then it stood up silently at what I believe was probably about maybe 8 foot tall. I noticed it left no shadow in the area around me. I stepped back and I was planning to just escape down the river rocks. I was preparing myself to be, just whipped by tree branches and brambles and everything. But before I took a second step backwards, it turned in the opposite direction and ran. It broke no sticks, no leaves, and it just kicked over no rocks and disturbed no branches. I ran down the river, taking branches to the face, arms, and I was being, just scratched to pieces. And I just screamed to my father at the bottom of the endless hill, "I saw an alien, Dad! I saw an alien!" My dad told me to shut up and get in the car, and we drove off. He wasn't believing me at first, but eventually he did. For a couple of days, I wondered if maybe I was just crazy or something. There was something wrong with me. I wondered if I'd imagined it, or maybe it was just some kind of strange dream or something. Then, as I was falling asleep, there was that awful sense of being watched again, in that nasty kind of way, like it was seeing right through me, right through my internal organs, everything. It was just so horrible. I opened my eyes to make sure that the coast was clear and that there was nothing there again. But it was right there in my room. It had that disgusting large head, and it was peeking around the door at me. Then it crept into my room, and it sniffed the sleeves. Take one. Then it crept into my room, and it sniffed the sleeves of my shirts that were hanging in my closet. It tapped its nails on my desk, and it dug its nails across my hamster cage, and then it crouched like I had seen it do before. But now we were at eye level, and it was only a few feet away from my bed. I asked it to keep its distance. And then something happened. I just fell asleep. And next thing, I woke up and it was morning. And I wondered if I had dreamed of that monster. Then the next night, the same thing happened. It did the same routine where it came into my room, sniffed the sleeves on my shirts, scratched the cage of the hamster, and it crouched again. It just did the same weird routine thing. And I asked it to stay away from me. And I called a friend. It was around 1 a.m., and I knew he wouldn't answer, but at least I'd have evidence that I wasn't dreaming. The next morning, I checked my calls, and sure as hell, I was awake. It was real. It happened. I had called my friend. So now I really do believe in ghosts and the afterlife.